And rolling. I'm actually headed out for my first deliveries of the day. We're gonna see if late supper into late night will have any sort of orders available. We had a whole lot of things going on with the family today, and honestly, I'm actually headed to the gas station because my wife had the car and she drove around a bunch, and so now I got to get everything gassed up so we're ready to go for the next couple hours, because I don't want to just take like 1 or 2 orders and have to gas up. We're also really close to a place where we can get 35 cents a gallon cash back using the Upside app. So I'm going to go there first, and we're going to just kind of from there turn all the apps on. I'm about 1.5 miles away, but want to get the stream started. So get going, hanging out with all of you, answering your questions. My name is Craig. Welcome to Aside a Hustle. The goal of this channel is to move 10,000 people from stupid broke to self-defined millionaires, from poor in every area of your life to rich in every area of your life. So I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you're watching on replay, because as much fun as these streams are to watch on replay, they're that much more fun if you can be with us live and interacting with the chat as we go. But we'll still try to drop a whole bunch of knowledge on you, have some fun as we are going in this. So if you've been out delivering today, let me know. How has the day been? It's a Saturday. Hopefully it was a good day for you guys who have been out all day. I have no major goals here tonight because I honestly don't know what's left. I guess we'll just start with like 50 bucks, see if we can find $50, and then from there we will see if we can find anything else. So the plan, we're going to stream here for 2.5 hours from 7:30 to 10 p.m. But we have a super chat goal that we're going to run for tonight. So if we get 5 or more super chats of 5 or more, then we'll add on an extra hour streaming. I'll stream till 11 p.m. Eastern. So that's completely up to you guys. The reason I'm doing that is because I know there's probably not going to be that many great orders. At least I would not normally stay out that late. So it's kind of an opportunity. You can pitch in and supporting the channel, and I'll in turn hang out with you guys a little bit longer. So completely optional, up to you guys if that's what you are all about. We appreciate it. So we're just headed to the gas station right now, then we'll get all the apps back on. And once we do that, we'll just kind of see. We're going to head in our downtown zone. I really have no idea if there's going to be anything good left or not. We are teetering on the edge of losing gold on DoorDash. Our DoorDash is, we're at 60 points, thanks to the fact that DoorDash's new on-time rating finds ways to make you late just because you're waiting for the restaurant. DoorDash does not want to reward you or thank you for waiting for customers at restaurants. They want to punish you for waiting for customers at restaurants. So then what you need to do is you need to start punishing DoorDash back by unassigning after 10 minutes unless the order is really worth it, because they're going to ding your account, so you might as well frustrate them as much as possible. This is a known problem on the DoorDash app with their new on-time metric. It does not matter what you do, they will find ways to make you late, even if all you're doing is sitting and waiting at the restaurant for the customer like you should. Even if you tell them you're sitting at the restaurant waiting for the customer, none of that matters. DoorDash will ding you with late deliveries under this new system. This new system is a point system. And so I'm at 60 points, so one more late delivery and I will slide from gold down to silver, and there's nothing I can do about it. But I don't really care that much because I'm not going to be beholden to DoorDash. But for those of you where those metrics matter greatly, just fair warning, that's the best way to play it, is after 10 minutes. If you're dealing with anything that's not a plus order, I would drop it after 10 minutes. Honestly, I'd drop it. I'd wait the 10 minutes and drop it as soon as it's late if you have to wait, because there's no reason you should take dings to your account for things that are not your fault. So, but we're going to be out here delivering for the next couple hours, do some dashing after dark. It is after dark here. Not for long, a couple more weeks, and we get to change the clocks forward, and we'll have light till 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we do have to gas up here first, so I'm going to just pop in. There's a Circle K that's offering 35 cents a gallon cash back, which is about the max that I ever see without like some sort of perk or bonus going on. And so I'm really excited, not to fill up with gas, but at least to get 35 cents a gallon cash back. And hopefully hopefully we'll start getting our base gas prices under $3 a gallon, because we've been kind of stuck. We've had a few that have gone under, but now we're back over again. I think this one looks like it's $3.17 a gallon tonight. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Feel free to say hi. Let me know what is going on in your life. I'm going to just gas up really, really quick. We will be on the road to doing some deliveries. I'll try to show you guys out the window here. All right, we're just doing that gas fill up thing. I hope everybody is doing awesome tonight. Oh, great. They got the pump cast video or whatever that is. Let's see. Let me get this going up here. I'm going to try to fix my screen brightness here really quick. So hold on one second. All right, hopefully that will be a lot better. I think I can see you guys better. So we're just going to gas up, and then we will turn all the apps on. In fact, while we're gassing up, I can turn on basically everything but DoorDash here really quick. We're just going out for the first time tonight, and we're going to see what we can find. I got low expectations. I'm going to try to find, we're just going to try to knock off like $50. That's going to be, I can turn on the app, starting getting hit with bad orders right away. That's what we do. That's generally what's going to happen, because as soon as you turn it on, they're going to say, oh, fresh meat. We're going to send them a junky order. So it's pretty standard. I find that you tend to get bad orders right away when you turn these apps on, so you got to kind of keep that in mind. All right, we're gassed up. We're going to get going here. There's more to great. As always, we're going to scan our receipt with our Fetch app, get points there. We'll get like 25 points. Save that up for some future gift cards. Got to maximize all your savings that you possibly can here. All right, so we got that, and then we've got to finish our upside. Make sure I have the correct credit card in, so we get credit for that. All right, it's that one. There we go. Then we locked in our 35 cents a gallon cash back, and we filled up with 11 gallons. So we get almost $4 cash back, which again is not much, but when you're filling up your car with gas 4 or 5 times a week sometimes, it's like an extra $20 a week in your pocket. That's not a bad deal. If you're not on Upside and you want to start getting cash back on your gas, you can download it, and when you are signing up, make sure you use my promo code ZKS75E. All right, let's see where we're at for channel subscribers. All right, we're at 1755. We're going to look for 5 channel subscribers. We're going to look for 5 channel members. Let's see, where are we at on membership, so I know that number. All right, we're at 4. So we're looking for 5 channel subscribers, 5 channel members, 5 super chats of $5 or more. Those are the 5 that we're going to roll here tonight. We finally have everything going. It just takes a little while to get all this stuff. We're going to get everything that is on except for DoorDash. So now we will turn on DoorDash as well. So appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. If you've been out delivering today, let me know what it is. If you got any other side hustle questions, let me know. We'll cover those as we go. We are also talking tonight about our topic at hand, which is double down, don't quit. Double down, don't quit. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that. So because we're not saying don't quit anything, but just in general, we're going to just go with a double down, don't quit as our mantra tonight, and we're going to talk about that. And so if you got any questions, feel free to chime in. So here's what I mean by double down, don't quit. A lot of times what happens is you get a little bit of a breakthrough, and I'll speak from my personal experience here tonight. While we're out delivering and hunting for deliveries, we're going to head towards downtown. Hopefully we'll find some good stuff there. Hopefully we'll find something there. But a lot of times you'll get like a little breakthrough. So let's say you have something, and I see this all the time. People will be like, okay, my goal is like, say $150 a day with food delivery. And like their first order of the day, they get like $100 order. And then their next order is like a $50 order. And then they just go home for the day and they're done. And they don't do anything else. They don't do any other work for the rest of the day. And I would challenge you a little bit, because that used to be the mindset that I was in. Hey, we're going to take this. This is 675 plus. 675 plus going, I think it's going to a hospital on DoorDash. So that's going to be our first one. It's just an order of chicken wings. So it's probably like $7, but whatever. Whatever. Wonder if I can, do I need to get over? Which way is that? Okay, I'm in the correct. I'm going the correct way. GPS is all messed up. So what happens is people have like a great day, like a great earnings day. And instead of they have a couple options there, right? You have a great earnings day. One of the things that you can do is you can keep going, right? Like if it's a great day, keep going. Don't quit just because you have a great start to the day. Just keep pushing forward and see what happens. See if something else plays out in your favor. Okay, the other thing you can do is you could go home and then start working on your next income earning project. What I would tend to do in the past, and what I see a lot of people tend to do, is they hit that and then they just go home and they're like, okay, I don't have to work for the rest of the day. Okay, now let's play this out though. Then what happens the next day? They go out the next day and it's really bad. They go out for 10 hours and they only make $100. So now, instead of building a little cushion, instead of building a nest egg, instead of building some flexibility into their earnings, now they're behind $50, even though they had an amazing day the day before. And so this is what happens to people, is they have a good day, they have a breakthrough, and instead of doubling down on it, they just end up quitting for the day. And so what you should do, as you are hitting breakthroughs in your financial situation and in like whatever earnings goals that you're hitting, when you hit your earnings goal, don't quit because you hit your earnings goal. Double down and then start to say, okay, now it's time for me to try to push this to the next level. So I was trying to make 150 a day. I already knocked that out. Let me now see if I can go out and make $200 today. Or let me at least go spend some time on my side hustle that'll start making me more than $150 a day in the meantime. All right, we're going to go ahead and see if this order is ready. I will be right back with you. We got the BRB rocking and rolling tonight. All right, at least we're starting out on fire tonight with the order being ready when we walked up. So hopefully, I mean, this is probably going to be a $7 order, but that's all right. You got to take all these plus orders on DoorDash. There's really no There's no alternative to not taking the $7 or the plus orders on DoorDash, even if you think the $6.50 is going to be $7, which is what I expect here, because it could be 12, it could be 22. It's probably not, but it's always possible that it could be one of those. So it's just an order of wings. It's going to the hospital. I'm 95% sure. Yep. We got to do a little bit of a U-turn, I think, to get to where we're actually going. So I just hope everybody is doing well. Happy Saturday night to all of you. So we're going to be doing some deliveries. We're talking about when you start to have financial successes, don't quit, double down. Don't quit for the day because you had a great earnings day. Double down and either work on your next side hustle that's going to bring you to something bigger, or keep going on your current hustle if that's what's already working for you. So don't quit, double down. So this goes along, by the way, because I just released a new PDF. It is in the description below. It's also the pinned comment if you are watching live. It is 10 plus ways to earn an extra $200 a week, because one of the biggest things with helping people get out of debt, because I know a lot of people who are doing food and gig delivery like myself, we are in debt and we're trying to get out of debt. And so one of the things that you need to do is not just cut back every expense, because a lot of times you cut back every expense and you're still stuck. You still can't get out of debt. You still can't make any progress on paying off your bills. Well, what you need to do then in those situations is you need to increase your income. And maybe you only need to temporarily do it. Maybe you have just like a really big bill that came in out of nowhere and you just got to work really hard to get caught up and get past that. Or maybe you're falling a little bit more behind each and every month. Well, that becomes an income problem. If you've cut every expense that you possibly can, then you have an income. Apologies on that. The phone decided to just randomly shut down and reboot. So kudos to you, Samsung, for providing an absolute piece of trash that sometimes works. All right, so we're on our way to this drop-off. We got to go like one more mile. We're dropping it off at the emergency room. So we're rocking and rolling. It's our first delivery night, 650 plus, going like 2 miles. I don't actually think that mileage is correct. We had to drive a little extra just to do the U-turns and get around to where we needed to be. But this is our first delivery of the night. It's a plus order. Not expecting more than $7 here. Honestly, it feels just like a $2 base pay plus a $5 tip. But we are hanging out with you guys tonight. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe as you come on in the room. We're going for a 5555 tonight. We're looking for 5 new subscribers, 5 new channel members, and 5 super chats of $5 or more. That's our goal for the evening. If we hit it, great. If not, no big deal. But we knocked out the goal the other night, so let's see if we can do it one more time tonight. We've got new content that's out on the channel as well, so make sure you get caught up on all of that. I like how the Cricket phone, the Samsung, is just going like nuts, just making all sorts of random noises and stuff. Like, don't care about you. Just be a phone. Just do what you're supposed to do. So hope everybody is doing well. Feel free to chime on in, say hello. Let me know what's going on with you. Wow, I'm very, very red right now. You can like see it. The brake lights and the red light in front of me, between those two things. There, now it's like red and green. Those brake lights in the car. It's like a GMC something or other. Probably like a Yukon. It's a Yukon or an Acadia. I can't tell how long it is, but very, very bright red lights. I am turning in now. Period. I should be there in about a minute. So this is the same hospital we dropped off to the other night. I'm just letting the customer know that we are almost there because it's a meet the customer at the hospital. And just generally speaking, I find hospital employees take a very long time to get out. Most of the time at this particular hospital, you can just drop it off and leave it there, but this customer wants to meet, so I'm letting them know ahead of time because I want to be in and out. And then I also already marked it because I was in the zone, so I marked it as can't get to the customer yet. That starts the countdown clock, which in this case is only 2 minutes. So the whole idea is you got to keep moving as you're doing all this stuff, and so that's what we're going to keep doing. So by the time we get here, at most we're going to have to wait like a minute. And so I also don't, because we're dropping off at an emergency room entrance, I hate being like parked in front of the door for long at all. So as soon as you're in range of these places, you got to mark that you've arrived at the drop-off location, or else you're just going to absolutely kill your time waiting for people who take, like, they know they have food coming, you know, right away. All right, we're gonna go in, try to meet them here really quick, and hope they can pick it up really quick. I'll be right back with you all. All right, we are back. Hey, we're English only on the channel. Just a heads up. That's because it's where all food is dropped off in the ER. Walking alongside my car. I don't know. I'm not a fan of dropping off at hospitals, especially when you're trying to meet people. It's really bad location to do that. So, and people don't know or understand how they work. So, I let you know it was coming. You weren't there in the time limit. So, we got to move on. We got other deliveries we got to deliver. I hope, at least. I hope. In Food Locker. And all that for the $7 that we thought we had. All right, sorry about that. Oh, we got ourselves another plus right away. This is from Mizu, which is a sushi place.
In 900 feet, use the left lane to stay to the left to Pine Ridge Road.
We got to get turned back around, though, because we already turned the wrong way. How's it going, Matt's Life? Hope you are doing well. So we just dropped off our first order. This is another one. We'll see if it's kind of similar. I have a feeling this is probably the types of orders we're going to be getting. A lot of just kind of small, low mileage. I'm not taking high mileage stuff unless it's really high pay. Hope you are doing well here tonight. Happy Saturday to all of you. We're talking tonight, while we're doing food delivery, about when you have financial successes, do not quit because you had the success. Instead, double down and work harder and keep pushing forward as you go from there. So the tendency for a lot of people is, hey, I had a great day, I made a lot of money, so now I'm just going to go home and relax the rest of the day. And I think that that's the wrong attitude to be taking when you're taking on stuff like this. I think instead, you've got to work harder and make the progress that you really want to make and get the things done that you really want to see done. So that's the theme of what we're talking about tonight. So as you have breakthroughs, as you are getting more income, and as you're working to expand your income, don't quit because you had a success. Instead, double down and either put more into what's already working, or if you've kind of maxed that out and you've maxed out as much as you can make on the areas of what you're already making, then start a new side hustle or start a new a new income stream or something that's going to work for you. And so that's really the encouragement that goes along with the PDF that I just released. It is the pinned comment in the chat, and sales are starting to come in for it. And so I'm just waiting for some of the first reviews, but I'm very excited about it. It's 10 plus ways to make an extra $200 a week. So if you're feeling the financial pinch right now, whether it's inflation or unexpected bills or the price of eggs, whatever it might be, we want to help you break free from that. So I do a variety of different side hustles and show you and demonstrate to you how to do them, teach you how to do them. And so we've been helping people for over a year on this channel. Super excited to just continue in that pursuit. This is the cheapest that PDF is ever going to be, because as we get feedback, we're just going to improve it and put more into it and make it a better and better resource. So this is really like ground floor, cheapest way to get in and see just a way that, I mean, if you can turn $500 or $5 into $200 a week, that's gonna be a really nice income boost for a lot of you. Everything in the PDF is available for free on the channel, but it might just take you hours and hours to dig through all the different content on the channel. So that's why I wanted to just put together a simple PDF that would give you all the basics of getting started in a side hustle, making some extra money on the side without having to spend those hours and hours. So it's here for free if you want to dig, and if you want to ask questions, I'm always here to answer those questions for you. But if you're in the situation where you just simply don't have the time to dig through hours and hours of videos, that's what the PDF is there for. So either way, we appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. So feel free to chime in, ask any questions. What is your income situation? Are you trying to get more? Are you content with where things are at? What should a depressed nihilist do? Well, if you are joking, my simple answer would be, well, be depressed that being a nihilist is depressed, because nihilism will always lead to depression. If, however, you are serious, then I would say it's time to maybe do a worldview shift. It's time to do a worldview shift if you're serious. Nihilism will tend to lead to kind of frustration and different things. So if you're serious, so I would say you got to figure out what your actual worldview is. I've never seen so many cars turn so slow into a parking lot as what we have right now. Let's go. It's like these cars don't know where they're going. So I would say it all starts with a worldview. Why are you a nihilist? Because essentially the end conclusion of nihilism is depression. So my recommendation to you would be to read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John from the Bible as purely a historical document. See if Jesus is historically reliable by using the same test that you would believe that anyone else, any other figure in history, is reliable. And do those things, make the decision that you need to make. And I think that if you center and surround your life with Jesus, it's going to fix the vast majority of your nihilism problem that you have. Why not? You stated something that you believe without even saying that. In fact, I don't think God could be all loving if he wasn't all powerful. I would actually argue the exact opposite. Because how could you be all loving if you didn't have the power to grant love as a thing in the first place? I think you have a wrong presupposition that you've been told, that you've not really searched through the positives and the negatives of that claim. Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta go pick up this order. All right, so I was reading your thought while I was in there. Yeldale, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out with us. We got some Saturday night thought process going here. So yeah, I appreciate you being in here, Lumix, as well. All right, let me figure out where I'm going so we can keep talking. This is stuff I can talk about pretty easily while I'm driving without staring at it. So basically your contentions are, if he's all-powerful, he would not be disappointed in his creation, so that there must be a hell. Also, God cannot be all-knowing, but hypothetically having the perception that humanity would have free will. Okay, so we got both good points. I appreciate you thinking this through. I just think that you haven't thought it through to its logical conclusion. Let's start with the first, because the first presupposition that you have there is that, I want to make sure I'm phrasing it right, and so if I'm missing on this while I'm driving, just correct me. But essentially, God couldn't be all loving, because if he was all loving, then there couldn't be a hell as a result of their failures. And I completely disagree with that. So if you think of anyone that you've ever loved in your life, are you saying that you can't be disappointed with someone that you love? Because love and disappointment are not antonyms. They're just realities. They're separate things. I don't think those are tied one to another. In fact, if anything, I think love and disappointment would be tied together. So now remember, disappointment and hell also don't tie together either, at least not from a biblical worldview. I can't represent every single viewpoint of God and faith from every single religion, but I can represent fairly well what a Christian biblical worldview would say. Hell is not a disappointment. Hell is just giving someone what they want. Someone decides that they want to be separated from God for all of eternity. Would it be loving for God to force someone? So let's just put this in a human context, a very basic human context. But let's just say that I love someone. Would it be loving of me to force that person that I love to be with me if they don't want to be with me? Would you consider that loving, or would you consider that kidnapping? Right? So you have to really think through, put your perspectives of God in a human perspective, and then put people in it and go from there. Is it loving? Let's say you're a parent and your child commits murder. Is it loving to say, hey, I know you committed murder, but I love you, so I'm not going to turn you into the police. In fact, go out and kill some more people. Why not? I'm all about that. Is that loving? Because when you put what you're saying in the context of humanity, I don't think it really holds up with that. No, God is okay. How could there be free will if God was not all knowing? When you say all knowing, are you deciding what all knowing means? Or are you using the definition of how it's used in the Bible? So you can't take a trait of God that's listed in the Bible, but then attribute your own definition to something that is clearly not what God is trying to communicate. So when a Christian says that God is all-knowing, it doesn't mean that he has a paper in his pocket that says, you will eat Frosted Flakes for breakfast today, therefore you must eat Frosted Flakes for breakfast today. That's not what all-knowing means. That's determinism. And that is not what all-knowing means. All-knowing means that God knows what you will choose, not that he forces you to choose it. In the same way that I know exactly how my son is going to react when he wakes up in the morning after a baseball game because he's tired and he doesn't want to go to school. That doesn't mean he has to act that way, but as his earthly father, I have the ability, because I know my son, I know how he's going to react in the morning, and I do that. Now, the only thing that I don't have that God does have is perfect knowledge. And so God also would have knowledge of the heart, which would say, hey, because even though my son normally wakes up in a grumpy mood after a baseball game because he's tired, God, because he knows the heart, would know, yes, but his heart has been changing, and so this morning God would know, well, yes, that has been how he has woken up, but as his all-knowing Heavenly Father, I know that his heart has been changing, and I know he's going to wake up with a smile on his face. So the only thing that limits my knowledge of what my son is going to do, or specifically how my son is going to react, is the fact that I'm not all-knowing. But that still doesn't change his free will. I'm not putting a gun to his head saying, you must wake up grumpy. I'm just saying, I know, as his earthly father, based on his characteristics and based on what I know about him, that he's going to wake up grumpy in the morning. That's it. That's all that all-knowing means. It's not deterministic. And so I want to make sure that you have some clarity on that, because I think that there is this idea that God being all-knowing somehow means that he determines what you have to do. And so I'll get caught up on other chat here in a second. I got to navigate through this parking lot, and so once we have that. Keep asking questions, by the way. Why do you say that our knowledge is determined? Who has determined your knowledge? Who has determined you're not allowed to learn a new thing? That's an unsubstantiated claim that you're making here. If you're going to make the claim that our knowledge is determined, you have to make the determination, well, who determined that? And why are you doing that? So I don't believe that our knowledge is not biblically based, and you're trying to a God who has revealed himself in the Bible. So sorry, I gotta figure out where this is. No, so but again, you haven't even tried to convince me of the premise that you have to have learned something. All right, apparently signal strength is not great over here either. So let me do this little neighborhood so people think that they're around. Unless, yeah, but how's it going, Casey? Lumix, I would say that, again, your presupposition is that unless God himself has revealed himself. if God has revealed himself, then that changes the game, right? So as soon as you're assuming that we have to discover God, but if this idea that God cannot be based on logic is only if you make the assumption that we have to discover God, not that God himself has reached out to us. And that's why I would say you have to start with a read of the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as historical narrative. Not trying to figure out anything beyond that, not do you believe the Bible or anything, just read them as historical narrative and find, do they live up to that historical test that you would put anyone else through, so if you believe things like Aristotle existed, does this pass the same test as that? Lumix, I haven't been able to read what you wrote yet up above. I can't just stay in someone's neighborhood for a second. So let me get to a better location here, and don't worry, I'm not ignoring you. Casey can attest that I won't ignore. When I'm driving, I got to be safe. So I need to get to a better location for finding orders because I am out here working tonight. Hey, no worries. No, I appreciate a good discussion. I like being challenged and stretched, and I think you've thought some of this stuff out. I just think that you've not come to the full final conclusion that it leads you to naturally. Like, I think if you work out the rest of your worldview in terms of what your views on God are, I think it actually leads to the opposite conclusion that maybe you came to. So, but no, just give me a few minutes to get to somewhere where hopefully there's some better orders and I can be a little bit busy. By the way, for everybody following along on the order side, that last order actually was a $12 order. So we had a $6.50 plus that was $7, and then like a $6.75 plus that was $12. So we're at $19. We're just trying to get to. We are trying to get to $50 here tonight. We have a 5555 goal for tonight. We're looking for 5 more channel subscribers, 5 more channel members, 5 super chats of $5 or more. It's actually $4.99, but that doesn't work really well for 4.99 more subscribers. So we're going to go with 5555. And so I appreciate you being here. We are up to 1757, so we're actually looking for just 3 more subscribers for that. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And like I said, as soon as I get to a safe location, Lumix, I'll scroll up because I know you had some good points, and I definitely want to address them, at least my take on them. And it's cool if we don't agree. That's fine. Like, you're still welcome to hang out here. I'm not going to make you leave just because you disagree with me. We got lots of people here who disagree with my viewpoints on a lot of different things, and that's what makes us stronger. Is as long as we're willing to openly test and examine our thoughts and our viewpoints, like, that's what I'm all about. So I just got to drive a couple miles. I don't usually even deliver by where we were delivering, but we got a couple of good orders right in a row. So gotta take advantage of it while we have it. So also, if we get to the 5 super chats tonight, then we'll end up streaming past 10 o'clock. I'll stream for an extra hour till 11. So, or if you just want me to go away and go to bed, then you can also just not super chat. Either way works for me. I gotta be up pretty early tomorrow, like 7:30 early, and then I gotta be out delivering most of the day tomorrow. We'll be live for supper tomorrow, hopefully right at 5 o'clock tomorrow night. We're looking for some good orders. I'm gonna head in the general direction of Magic Dumpster. For those of you who are regulars to the channel, you know Magic Dumpster is a place we like to go to get some good orders, especially as we head into the later portion of the night. It's never a guarantee, but it's a dumpster that's in a back alley behind some of our nice higher end restaurants. Hey. It's good. Challenging is good, Lumix. That's what we like. And that's what makes us stronger. And like I said, that would be my encouragement to you, would be to start. And I'll read your comments here. Got to give me about 5 to 10 more minutes unless we get an order. And it's when it's these DoorDash orders, then I got to go super fast because they have us on like a very strict timer. we're still barely hanging on to gold status here on DoorDash. So anyway, while I'm waiting, let me know if you guys are hanging out, if you're out doing deliveries and stuff tonight or today. How was your day? How did it go? And I'm going to get back to Lumix here in a few minutes once I can stop and read all the comments, because I want to make sure I do some good due diligence. Let me do this, because I think we can park over here for a few minutes. I'm going to just park over by Fresh Market and Carrabba's. That gives us Instacart options here too. Instacart, I think, is still open for another half an hour. And I can at least just park for a couple minutes to get caught up on what Lumix was saying, because there was a lot of stuff being typed as I was doing that last delivery. So we're at $19 on the night. And from when we turned it on, we're about 45 minutes in. So pace isn't great, not horrible. All right, there's the McDonald's, $3 for 1 mile. Definitely not taking that. I'm just gonna come down the end here. I'm gonna park really quick, and I'm gonna do my best to quickly read and answer. And then if I'm missing anything, because again, while I'm driving, I gotta be safe. That's priority here first. But let's see. All right, let me scroll back up. All right, God cannot be all powerful and all loving. So my contention to that is very simple, that God could not be all loving if he was not all powerful. Like in my mind, right, only the most loving person would be the one who would have the most ability to do good, right? So you know, I can understand and sympathize a little bit more with the argument of God cannot be all powerful and all good. That argument's a little bit tougher to handle, but I think all powerful and all loving actually go hand in hand. And in fact, I think, right, a good parent shows their love by showing their power when it's needed most, right? A good parent shows their love to their kid by showing power when they need it the most. Now, they also don't necessarily use the full strength of their power, but they use their power to confront someone who's, confront a teacher who's doing their child wrong, or to stand up, or to teach them how to stand up to a bully, or different things like that. So, and again, I reject the premise that all loving means that there would not be a hell, simply because all loving does not mean no punishment. And in fact, all loving sometimes means you try to save someone from punishment, and you try to save someone from hurting themselves. But sometimes all loving also means, after you've pursued someone long enough, sometimes you just have to let them go. And there are tons of parents who are very loving of their kids, whose kids have made tragic choices in life, and those parents had to say, I love you, however, and I'll still be there for you, but I cannot endorse you going down this direction in life. And so essentially God says the same thing. Look, I love you. I want you to follow me. I want you to trust in my son Jesus. But if you refuse to do it, I'm not going to force you to do that against your will. And so again, any parent has disciplined their kids from time to time. And most every parent has reached a point at some time or another where they said, you know what, I'm still going to love my kid, but I've got to just be hands off on this situation until they come around, and I'm just going to be there for them. But ultimately, if they choose not to come around, that's on them and not on me. So hopefully I'm covering at least, I want to make sure I'm representing your arguments correctly, Lumix, because I'm not trying to gloss over them. I'm just trying to do this relatively quickly here. This is not like a super deep theology. This is just kind of base level. God cannot be all-knowing by hypothetically having the perception that humanity would have a free will. So again, I think I kind of covered my take on that. So he cannot die because we have the search for living. So I don't understand exactly what you're saying there, Lumix, but I know that tends to be kind of the Muslim contention, is that God can never die. Therefore Jesus died, therefore Jesus could not be God. I know that's kind of the Muslim argument as to why they believe Jesus was a prophet and not God in the flesh. So that's kind of that argument. However, if someone is all powerful, they can also choose to exert that power or choose not to exert their power, right? One of the powers of being all powerful. Yeah, I'm gonna take this one. This is $10 for 7 miles, just because it's pretty late. It's from Uber Eats. I'm gonna pause DoorDash here, but this is Uber, so I can sit here for just another minute here, really quick. So part of God's power is the fact that he has the power to empty himself, and that to me is more powerful than someone who just goes around zapping everything all the time. Like a lot of people picture God as this cosmic lightning zapper of zapping anything that goes wrong. No, part of being all powerful is having the power to limit your power and not exert it at full force at any point in time. Like that's having that self-discipline that most of us, if any of us were given the power to be all powerful, we would absolutely abuse it for one way or another. If someone thinks that he or she could take a life, he'll be punished by God because that human would have been played God. So his ego is too fragile that we could love him unconditionally. Okay, so I do think, okay, the first point you're saying here, if someone thinks he or she could take a life, he'll be punished by God because that human would be being God. I essentially think that that's basically it, right? Anytime that we exalt ourselves to the throne of God, that separates us in our relationship with God. It goes back to the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve did that. They exalted themselves to the highest position to be the ones who were the lawgivers, and they chose, hey, we can eat from this tree if we want to. And so I think that's a basic good synopsis of what that would be. Is God's egos too fragile so that we could love him unconditionally? No, that's the whole thing, is he doesn't need us to love him unconditionally. And that's why if someone chooses not to love God unconditionally, he gives them their free will and says, okay, if you don't want to love me, if you don't want to follow me, I'll give you your free will. But the problem is, what you think of as just normal earth, part of that is the grace of God that is being given to you. So hopefully that covers a little bit of what you're trying to say there. Is there something like a better thinking? I was very active on a theological and religious basis until I could only become an atheist because philosophy, logic, and rationalism cannot get me to other conclusions than nihilism. Well, of course, yeah, because that's the end goal of atheism is nihilism. Like you found the conclusion. If atheism is true, nihilism is true. Everyone lives for themselves. Go do what you want, and there is no set morality. Anyone can do whatever they want. If you want to go kill someone, as an atheist and as a nihilist, who cares? If you want to go help 100 people and feed the homeless, great, but who cares? One's not better than the other. So, no, needing no help, he is the source of all help. That's awesome. No, I appreciate your thinking. It's good. No, I'm glad that you're engaging with it, but you're finding and you're coming very quickly to the conclusions that a lot of the famous philosophers and atheists have come to, which is you can't say that what was done in World War II in Germany was wrong. You can't say that that's morally wrong. You're just a piece of slime that's evolved to a higher order. That's all you are. There's nothing objectively right or wrong. There's no good or bad, but you probably can't live that way. If someone were to rob you, you wouldn't say, hey, you know what? That's not objectively wrong. They took all my money. No big deal. That's not wrong. And if I want to go rob them back, there's nothing wrong with me doing that. If I want to go kill them, there's nothing wrong with me doing that. If I want to go forgive them, literally nothing matters. So I applaud you for coming to the obvious logical conclusion of atheism that 90% of atheists can't themselves come to a conclusion with, because that is it. That is literally the only conclusion you can come to ultimately with atheism is nihilism. Nothing matters. There is no morality. There is no right and wrong. Right, but if you truly believe that the impossible is possible, then that means that the possibility that God came in human flesh and walked on this earth is possible. So, all right, I gotta go pick up this order. Keep on typing. I'll get caught up when I get back out here. Good stuff. Appreciate you, Lumix, and hope everybody else who's watching is having a good night as well. Just having a good, fun discussion. I gotta go pick up some churros and carnitas and burritos and stuff like that. I'll be right back. Hey, once again, everything is ready. Tiger Morph, how's it going? So my overall topic for tonight was when you start to have financial breakthroughs, don't quit, double down, keep going on it. But Lumix has come in with some really good questions on atheism and nihilism and finding purpose in life and everything. So if search for logic and rationalism is specifically of intellect, how can I think otherwise? Okay, so I think one of the things that intellectuals tend to have to struggle with is their arrogance. In fact, the Bible even points this out, which is ironic, right? Because the Bible points out multiple times that people who think they are wise end out to be fools. And the irony is, the Bible pointed this out many years before even modern intellectuals came about. And so you start to see this pattern here with that. All right, let me look at this one last comment before we get on the road here. I think hyper-intellectuals tend to work really diligently to a point, and then they start to hit a point where they just become lazy because it's easier to just build out their current belief system than to challenge their belief system. I think that's the problem with a lot of modern hyper-intellectuals, is they will only challenge their belief system till they get to a conclusion that they like, and then they'll stop challenging it anymore. And so I think that's the biggest problem, is if you're going to say it, but then you're not going to actually live out what your natural conclusions are, then you don't actually believe it. And that's actually my problem with a lot of atheists. A lot of atheists never actually choose to live out the conclusions that their atheism will naturally bring them to. And because they know that's not how they want to live, nor is it the world that they want to live in. Nobody wants to live in a world where pick your favorite serial killer is just as morally correct or incorrect as Mother Teresa, or pick your favorite moral person of whatever you would determine as moral. No, none of you wants to think that you have no difference in morality than John Wayne Gacy or some other serial killer. But the logical conclusion to atheism is, like I said before, you're just a hunk of slime that's evolved to a higher order, and there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong about any decision that you ever make. And you can say that you like something or you dislike something, or you have this political viewpoint, but someone who believes exactly the opposite of you could say, well, yeah, that's fine. But here's the thing, you don't live that way though. I guarantee you don't live that way. If I could see you living day in and day out, I guarantee you I could find times where you make moral judgments on other people, even though you should consider my opinion and my conclusions 100% equally as valid as yours. Because your worldview says, look, they're all just opinions, they're just thoughts. They're not even real. Your intellectual thoughts have no more value than my intellectual thoughts, or the intellectual thoughts of someone who's 70 years old but has a thinking level of a 3-year-old child. Your intellectual thoughts are no greater than anyone else's. But I've never met a higher intellectual type of person who genuinely believes that their thoughts are not more valuable than the thoughts of someone who is of lower intellect than them. But again, why would you say that your higher intellectual thoughts are even higher intellectually than yours? You claim to be an intellectual, but if your conclusion with your intellectualism is that we're all just slime, evolved to a higher order, we're just here by happenstance, why do you think the slime that is your brain is any better than the slime that's in someone else's brain? And if you do believe that, then you're obviously giving weights and values to different things. Okay. So which part don't you agree with though? Because that's the natural conclusion to atheism. Atheism is, there is no morally superior thought, there is no greater intellectual thought. Richard Dawkins and myself and a 6-month-old baby, all of our intellectual thoughts are equal. Why value someone else's thoughts over something else? And again, pick your favorite dictator or least favorite dictator, whatever it may be. Because the atheistic thing says there's nothing wrong with discrimination or racism or bigotry. It happens in the animal kingdom all the time. So, but do you really want to come to the conclusion that racism, bigotry, discrimination, all those things are morally wrong? Because an atheist can't make that claim. An atheist can't make the claim that there are morally wrong things without knowing or having a moral lawgiver. By the way, we're on a drop off here. We've got to go about 5 more miles, dropping off our burrito and a bunch of other stuff. Right, but at what point are we getting into semantics here where it's just simply like, yeah, you can phrase it this way or that way. But ultimately, if you don't believe that your thoughts are better than other thoughts, then why don't you just believe other thoughts? Because you stated previously, I believe if I understood it correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not trying to misrepresent your argument, but I think you stated earlier that you started as a Christian, but through your study, you came to the conclusion, ultimately, that through intellect, that atheism and nihilism is the correct conclusion. Well, why do you trust your thoughts that that is the correct conclusion? I'm right, but what I'm saying is, why are you judging that your current thoughts are better than your old thoughts? There obviously must be a reason or a standard that some sort of moral level that you are judging. And I'm realizing now I'm talking to 2 different people too, so if I'm talking over you guys, sorry about that. My apologies if I'm getting things mixed. But I mean, so basically, either morality exists or morality doesn't exist. Either there's a law or there's not a law. And if there's a law, there's either a lawgiver or the law is a natural law. But if it's a natural law, like a truly natural law, like comes from nature, then we should see that being followed by all of nature. It should be followed consistently throughout all of nature. But we as humanity and as the society that we're living in, we've determined there are certain laws. And you might disagree with some of the laws. You might say, hey, there are certain laws that I think are silly, or I think there's other laws that that should be on the book. But as soon as you say should or ought in terms of laws and morality, then you're still declaring an ultimate morality that is higher than yourself. And I just simply would argue, if there is a morality higher than yourself, if there is a morality higher than yourself that exists, then we need to really investigate, well, what is that and how did it come to be? Is it unchanging? Who determines it? Because if it's just the will of the people, then all of a sudden you put yourself in some really interesting things, because then you start to say things like slavery and racism, when they were encoded into the law, were moral. If something just existing in the law makes it moral, that puts you in some interesting things like World War II era Germany, that you're starting to say that things that most people would say are morally reprehensible, suddenly you have to say they're morally good because that's what the law says that it was. And so I think there's a lot of different interesting things here that you've just kind of logically have to think through with it. Tiger, yeah. So I think you're partly true, and I think that's what happens is you do have different sides sometimes that end up talking about God in different ways. That's why my challenge and my encouragement is to simply read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first four books of the New Testament, and put them up to whatever historical rigor you would hold any other document of that era or any other historical document to, and see if the claims about Jesus appear to be historically reliable based on the same standard of evidence that you would use for any other historical narrative document. So that's where I would start there. Because, yeah, I think otherwise talking about God, well, are you talking about a pantheist God where everything is God? Or are you talking about God where, we're all individually gods? There's so many different belief systems. And so that's why I just like to keep pointing back to Jesus, because that to me is the ultimate crux of the argument. Either Jesus was who he said he was, or he wasn't who he said he was. He either was God in human flesh as he claimed, or he wasn't God in human flesh as he claimed, right? And so that to me seems like a fairly significant detail that is important for anyone who wants to investigate what the Bible says. Like, that seems like a pretty important detail. In fact, I would argue it's probably the most important detail, is understanding who that is. Not whether or not you believe every little fact about the Bible, or if you believe the inerrancy of Scripture, all these different things. I think those are other studies for other deeper levels and deeper times. But just hold up the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to a historical narrative reliability test that you would put to any other work of historical narrative, and determine, does this match the criteria of what you would look for in that sort of thing? So is there ever going to be proof? No, we're not. You can't find proof. But I can't prove to you that this conversation is even happening right now, right? I can't prove to you that you are real. I can't even prove to you that I'm real. I can't prove to you that I'm not just some generative AI that's having a discussion with you, right? So if I can't prove things that are happening in real time, then I certainly can't prove to you things that happened hundreds and thousands of years ago. But I can lay out evidence, and I believe, based on a thorough study of the New Testament, that the evidence is that Jesus is who he says he is. That's the conclusion I've come to. You need to study and come to your own conclusions as well. I'll get caught up again, Lumix, here in just a little bit. We're just a mile away from our drop-off, so one thing I'll say though, when you're having discussions with other people, not everybody has thought through all these things the same level or way you have, and that may be on them, but there's also this concept that if you know your argument well enough, you should be able to explain it to someone who doesn't fully understand it. And I'm not picking on you because I don't know how you presented things, but a lot of times we think that, hey, if I can use big words and I can say things and other people don't understand, it means I won the conversation. But truthfully, I've learned in life that it's kind of quite the opposite. The wordsmiths and the people who use big words and big phrases and they can't boil it down to something a lot simpler that other people can understand are actually sometimes people who have learned concepts, but they've not really gotten to the point where they can teach those concepts to other people. So I would say, yeah, maybe there is some learning, but not every Christian is Christian in the sense of deeply studying the scriptures maybe the way that they should. A lot of people are Christians in the sense of it was a heritage, it was something they grew up in. It's a tradition much more so than it is a true relationship with the God of the universe. So that's one thing I would say on that. And but there are plenty of people who have studied the Bible and who have come to conclusions that the God of the Bible is the God of the universe, that Jesus is who he says he is, who have studied and who will give you plenty of opportunity to have good, open, and honest discussions if you want to have with them. And maybe someday there'll come a point where the points that you have will be way beyond and over my head, but I can just tell you just in general right now, the majority of these arguments are not new arguments. I don't disagree that they're not valuable, but they're not new. You're not sharing anything with me that I haven't heard in one form or another. You know, maybe there's different nuances or different ways that you look at things that are slightly different than other people, but they're the same. A lot of them are the same basic arguments, but I've studied and I've come to the conclusion really that a lot of those arguments, when fully thought out and fully fleshed out, really don't lead to the lazy, what I would consider more of a lazy conclusion for them. You know, if God's all powerful, can he make a rock so big that he can't lift it? Like, that's a lazy question, right? You know, that was a question we joked about when I was in Bible college. Like, we would joke about that question. Like, nobody who's studied Christianity even takes that question seriously. And so when you ask a question like that to someone who has studied their faith, internally they're laughing at you because obviously they know that you haven't even studied some of the most basic tenets of theology. If you ask, and I'm not saying you are asking a question like that, but like there's a lot of times people will be like, oh, that's a gotcha question. That's a gotcha question. Like, no, you didn't. That's not really a gotcha question. It's like if you ask a question on a premise that's incorrect in the first place, it's not a gotcha question. It's just shows that you're not in that context arguing in full things. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, Lumix, to be clear. I just want to make sure that you understand. I'm not accusing you of that, but I'm just saying that's what happens sometimes when we just settle for what I would say is kind of more the lazy conclusion to what something might be. And that's what I generally find people on both sides. And there's plenty of Christians who come to lazy conclusions about their faith as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Christians who don't think about their faith or don't engage in it mentally. It's something that I think is super important to do. So, all right, we are gonna find this building here. We're pulling in. I'm gonna guess it's this one here. I need to find a sign, make sure I'm delivering to the right building. Because just because the GPS says I'm at the right place doesn't mean I'm at the right place. But in this case, I see the building number. I'll be right back. We'll get caught up on chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us here tonight. I'm gonna go do this delivery here real quick. And then we'll be right back with you as soon as I find which door I'm going to. let me quick scroll. Again, I'm not trying to ignore anything, but yeah, for sure. All right, so let me get out of here. No, I think I'm mostly caught up on the chat. So if all right, Tiger, I'll address that question here in a second. Here's my take on that, Tiger. I think understanding God from a human perspective is basically impossible unless one thing happens. And that's unless God chooses to reveal himself to us. So, which is why, again, I think the complexities that you're talking about in really having an understanding of who God is, of course, like if there is a being, right? So just suppose here for a second, we'll just do a mental exercise. If we assume that there is a being whose ways are higher than my own, and again, I'm going under the assumption that that's what we're trying to figure out, right? There's multiple arguments here, and I know we're kind of jumping around, because one argument is, does God exist? But, so that's a separate argument. But if you're going to make the argument, well, I believe God exists, but who's God, which God is right? So the question is, you got to figure out, did this being that is so much higher than us, could I figure out who he is on my own? Could I fully understand than another human being who is significantly smarter than me? Is it even possible? Could I, again, pick your favorite smart person. Like, is there ever a world where I could fully understand the thoughts of the smartest person in the world? But then, even if you say, well, how much knowledge does the smartest person in the world know of all knowledge, right? I don't know. I would say it's probably 1%, but let's even just grant that the smartest person, a Stephen Hawking or whatever, you're Albert Einstein. Let's assume the smartest person who's ever lived knows 10% of everything there is to know, which I think that is an extraordinarily high number. Because, everything that there is to know involves like every baseball stat ever statted, every football score that has ever happened, every happening in history that has ever happened, who built the pyramids, exactly how the pyramids were built, all these, like, whatever. But I'll just for argument's sake, let's grant that the smartest person who ever lived, Albert Einstein, Hawking, whatever, knows 10% of all there is. So that means that the God of the universe would be 10 times smarter than the smartest person who's ever lived. Now, again, I believe those numbers are both way off, but I'm going to keep it really basic. I'm going to give every benefit of the doubt to humanity here. Okay, if I can't even understand some of the most basic thoughts of Albert Einstein, how could I even begin to understand the basic thoughts of God, right? And I couldn't unless God chose to reveal himself. So that's a huge question, right? And so those are the claims that the variety of religions make. God chose to reveal himself in this way. God chose to reveal himself in that way. God chose to reveal himself in that way. Okay, so then, if you're starting with, okay, I've come to the conclusion there's God, well, how do I know which God is the right God? Again, it goes back to then test of historical reliability and figuring out if what is written in the text, because obviously those authors are not still around today, do they pass the muster of these are historically reliable documents based on how you would judge any other document, not religious, not spiritual documents, I mean any other historical documents. And if they hold up to it, it's good. Now, it is possible for every religion to be wrong, but it's not possible for more than one religion to be right, at least if one of those religions is Christianity. Christianity claims exclusivity. Jesus himself claims, John chapter 14, verse 6, that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. Muslims obviously would disagree with that verse. Mormons would disagree with that verse. Jewish people would disagree with that verse. Now, there might be certain other religious systems that have the ability to work together. I don't know every single religious system that is out there, but obviously Islam and Judaism would not work together. They have diametrically different views of who God is, the nature of God. But if Christianity claims to be the only way to God, that means Christianity plus another religion cannot both be true. Because either Jesus is the only way to God or he's not the only way to God. And if Jesus is not the only way to God, that means Jesus was a liar. And if the only way to reach God was by believing in Jesus as the perfect sacrifice for sins, as he claimed to be, and then he's a liar, well, then he's not the perfect sacrifice for sins. Revealing means letting us know a portion of his mind and his will to us. That's what I mean by revealing. That God would choose to allow humanity to know a portion of his mind and his will. Okay, so I mean that in a very general sense. You know, as a believer in Jesus, I believe that God did that through the Bible. But that's come after studying a variety of different texts and seeing how life works in real time, that it's the only belief system that seems to work, to me, consistently with what I see in the world. You know, when a book like the Bible can predict the very arguments that people will make about why the Bible itself is not reliable, that has some weight to me. When you have a person, a Messiah figure that was predicted to do certain things and fulfill certain prophecies, and the person comes and is attributed by multiple people throughout history to have done those things and fulfilled those prophecies, even though those people come from a variety of backgrounds, that holds weight to me. And so we are reliant on that, or you're reliant on just trying to figure out who God is through your own intellect. And for me, just again, having looked through a variety of different religious and non-religious, theistic and atheistic worldviews, none of them make sense to me outside of Christianity. Because Christianity explains everything I see in the world, is explained and is essentially predicted by what would happen if people choose to follow Jesus or don't choose to follow Jesus. And that holds a lot of weight. Good evening, Kaylee. Good evening, Lisa. We're having some fun theological discussions here tonight. I hope you guys are doing awesome. So I'm going to go park over here by Turco Taco. We just finished a drop-off from Felipe's Tacos, so we'll see if the taco theme is going. If we don't get anything here for a few minutes, we'll go ahead down by Magic Dumpster. So for those of you who are out delivering today, I hope you did awesome today. I did not get out till like 7:45 tonight, so it's kind of a slow start. We had a lot of family things going on and stuff today, but I did work on the YouTube channel. Got a new video up on the channel earlier today, and I streamed the entire Mets game on the new sports channel and everything. Yeah, we're gonna go to Magic Dumpster. Don't worry, we're going, Lisa. All right, I'll get caught up with you here in a second. Lots of good things. So, by the way, say hi to Lumix and Tiger Marsh, Kaylee and Lisa. Lumix has been here for quite a while. Tiger Marsh came on a little bit afterwards, but we're having just kind of a good, fun theological discussion. You're welcome to just listen to me opine if you don't really care, but you just got off of life. Good. Yeah, we are. Life is exciting. I don't think so. I think atheism takes way more faith to believe than any belief system. I mean, again, imagine thinking all this order came out of chaos, right? Like, imagine thinking that there's increasing entropy and yet there's increasing order that we see, not just in the natural world, but also in the physical world of the things that we've built. So, very nice. Yeah, I had an 80 on Instacart yesterday, Kaylee. So, I've been getting about one good Instacart a day when I've been out for full day. Lumix, I don't see why faith would be programmed or determined, because there are plenty of people who grew up without faith who came into faith. There's people who grew up with faith that left the faith. So how is it programmed or determined if people are regularly choosing to either walk into or walk away from faith? You know, even nihilistically, you kind of get to a point where it's like there's maybe a broader question, which is whether or not, like, why do you even care what other people think? And I don't mean that in a sense like, why does your brain even want to think about what other people think? Do I believe in the construct of pride? Can you define what you mean by that, Lumix? Like, I mean, I believe that pride is a thing, and I would delineate between a couple different types of pride. I would, there's one thing of like being proud of yourself for doing something, basically this idea of just like, and I don't think that's a sinful thing at all, as long as it doesn't turn into braggadociousness. But like, if there's something that you've been wanting to do and you accomplish it, and then you're proud of yourself, like, that's good. Like, I think that's a good thing to do. Like, you're building yourself up. But to think of yourself as higher than other people, absolutely, that's a thing. Yeah, so I like I would say, I think pride is a real thing. I would say, but I would break it into the one sense of pride, which is like, hey, you know what? I went out to lunch today and I chose to pick the salad instead of the cheeseburger, right? I'm proud of myself for sticking to what I believe, and I'm going to keep pushing on that. The other side is, I went to lunch today, I ate a salad instead of a cheeseburger, and now I'm going to announce to everybody, look at me, look at how awesome I am, and all of you who didn't do that, you're all horrible people, and I'm going to start judging you and looking down on you and all that. So, well, I mean, do you deny that growth is a real thing, Lumix? I mean, if you do, you're just coming from a completely different worldview, because I'm a different person, and even from a chemical biological, right, I believe the stat is like within 5 years, every single atom in your body takes 5 years for you to cycle through all the atoms that are in your body. So all of you is from a, at a microscopic level, all of you is replaced every 5 years. But I know I'm a different person, and I know the people who are regulars in this channel can even attest to the fact of how I'm continuing to become a different person. So I don't know. I don't think that's indoctrination at all. Yeah, but growth isn't guaranteed. There's plenty of seeds that are planted that never grow. There's plenty of dreams and ideas that people have that never grow into reality. So I just, no, that doesn't match with anything that I see, what I actually observe in the real world. In fact, based on your own testimony, you used to believe one thing, and then your thought process has grown into something deeper. You don't think the same way that you did. I think you said you were like 16, right? So you don't think the same way you did 10 years ago. Probably 10 years ago, you probably didn't care about much of this stuff. Now, maybe you were starting to think in a deeper level, but most of these concepts are not even concepts that a 6-year-old, at least a normal 6-year-old, could have handled. So right. But you said, but doesn't that then go against this whole idea of being indoctrinated into it? Because you still chose to walk away from it. So to me, you're proving that that religion is not documented. 3 a.m. in Germany? Ich spreche kleine Deutsch. Ich habe Deutsch vor 5 Jahre gelernt. That's about all I remember, Tiger Marsh. That's my little bit of German that I still know and remember. Oh, you're also German. Awesome. Well, there. That's my little bit of German. I got German heritage, so I took it in high school. But yeah, I don't. I've forgotten way more German than I will ever remember. And I probably spoke it with a pretty poor accent as well. Nice Americanized German. All right, I'm gonna move just for a couple minutes here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here tonight. We're gonna just head to a different location, just trying to find some orders here. I believe we're at like $29. I'm just trying to get to 50 here. See if we can get to 50 in the next half an hour. So another $20, or not another, a $20 order. So good conversation. We are on a 5555 mission tonight. We're looking for 5 new subscribers, 5 new channel members, 5 super chats of $5 or more. We are up 3 subs on the evening, so we're looking for 2 more. That'll get us to 1760. Vitalik, how's it going? Appreciate you coming and hanging out tonight. We're headed over to Magic Dumpster as we speak. So I didn't get out till about 7:45. So I missed the main all of Saturday. I missed the Saturday rush, not just the supper rush. How are you doing tonight, Vitalik? So yeah, we're rocking and rolling, having some good theological, philosophical, worldview type of conversations tonight. Tiger Morph and Lumix. Both of them coming to us from Germany, Deutschland. So, success implies limits, or does success imply progress? So I do agree with you in one point, Lumix, that I tend to use checkpoints more than I use goals. So like I might say like this is a goal for the night, but like in my broader area of life, a lot of times I just kind of look at it more as checkpoints. Like I'm just trying to get to this next checkpoint. Like a runner in the race, I'm not hyper focused on the end of the race so much as I am focused on what's the next thing that I need to accomplish. Well, that's what a nihilist would say, Lumix. Actually, wouldn't a nihilist say that there is no such thing as progress? I mean, I would think that progress really couldn't even be part of your vocabulary. What is progress? Progress isn't a thing, right? So to me, I can have progress because I have a standard or I have an aim, but at the same time, I can either make steps towards that aim or not make steps towards that aim. But a nihilist would say it's all for naught. So there is no such thing as progress. But again, then you fall back. Tiger Morph sounds good. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us and participating in the conversation tonight. Appreciate you. You know, again, I would say if you do, or yeah, you got the big election going on, right? You just got to figure out yeah, but you can't prove that. That's just speculation. That's just hypothesis, right? I just bet if I could watch you live your life for a day or two, I could point out multiple areas that you don't consistently live out the nihilistic worldview. My goodness, someone's parked in Magic Dumpster spot again. It's a nice fancy car. I'm going to pull up right next to them, make them nervous if they come out. We're going to park by Magic Dumpster. What do we got? What kind of car is this? It's a fancy pants car. There's a guy. I'm going to go help a guy here. He's got a... Oh, maybe he's just going to carry it over. It's like a bunch of palm fronds. I'm going to clear out. Hold on. Alright, I cleared a path for him. I think it's a Jaguar. It's a nice car. Okay, I'll follow along. We'll see what you got. Let's see what you're cooking, Lumix. Okay, so we're going to define instinct and intuition as emotions. Sounds good. Someone is doing something they would have not found themselves being able to do. Okay? Can I ask if you think evolution is the mechanism by which we came into existence? I think that would be kind of interesting as we're trying to parse through worldviews here. If you think that we came into existence via solely natural processes, I would assume that would be what you would believe, but I don't want to assume when I can just simply ask you. I know that's obviously where the vast majority of atheists stand. There might be a handful of people who are into the last Thursdayism. We're sitting here by Magic Dumpster, by the way. There's a lot of cars going by. I'll show you Magic Dumpster in a second. These cars are blocking our view of Magic Dumpster. Well, so again, all of your questions, Lumix, are essentially built on a presupposition that all we are is matter and energy. So I agree with you that if all we are is matter and energy, then yeah, everything is just chemical responses in the brain. But then, do you argue that there should be criminal justice? Do you argue that people should be held accountable for their actions? Why can't people just say, look, the neurons firing in my brain told me to steal that. The neurons firing in my brain told me to kill that person. Like, all of a sudden, I think you just end up in this, like, the conclusion is no justice, because you can't say that anything is unjust. You know, when a snake goes out into the woods and sees another snake and kills it and eats it, there's no justice system. That snake's not put in snake jail. So, I mean, would your advocation be for a complete collapse of society as it exists? Because I feel like that's the only conclusion. Right, but I mean, so then the only conclusion is there is no right, there is no wrong. Therefore, if there's no right and no wrong, there should be no criminal justice because there is no crime. I mean, is that the conclusion that you've come to? Like, because to me, that's the only conclusion you can come to. So if I get frustrated and I yell at my wife or I yell at my kids, that's not wrong. Chemicals in my brain made me do it. But why should they have to be ready to do anything? I think the premise of that question is foolish. I think the premise of the question is right, yeah, justice is a construct, but you see, I don't think you can argue that justice is a construct for the betterment of society. Right, but that's what I'm saying. You, as a nihilist, you can't have values, therefore you can't ascribe something as being legal or illegal, or just or unjust, or right or wrong. Is there anything that you believe is wrong? Do you believe anything is wrong? Or do you believe literally anything, do you believe that any human has ever done anything wrong in their entire life? I'm not going to list out a bunch of examples because I don't want to get YouTube. But why? Yeah, see, but that's not a fair argument from a... I don't believe that's I don't think that argument is in good faith, Lumix, that someone cannot be tolerated if you would not tolerate. Isn't the whole point of evolution to be the king of the hill? Like, you're assigning a social construct here that disagrees with your nihilism. Because your nihilism says, no, go and be the top. Why would you tolerate anyone who's getting in the way of what you're trying to accomplish? That's a very Christian worldview. Well, to you it might be, but not to someone else. Again, see, you're starting to ascribe values, and this is where nihilism and atheism ultimately breaks down, because you're now starting to assign values that are Christian values that disagree with your atheism and nihilism. Saying that we should have some sort of society where tolerant people have to tolerate other people, but those people who are not being tolerated don't have to tolerate the person who's not tolerating them in the first place. Like, that's a justice, and that's a Christian value that you're stealing. You're not allowed to steal from Christianity while denying Christianity exists. And you're ascribing knowledge versus ignorance as being a higher thing. There's plenty of people who die ignorantly who would rather be alive and ignorant than dead and knowledgeable. So I think this is the problem with like nihilism and atheism, is if you're getting close to taking it to its logical conclusion. However, you're getting to the point where at the very end you don't like what that logical conclusion is, because the only way you can do that is to borrow from Christian worldview values at the very end. Because the ultimate answer is you cannot ascribe. Well, that's exactly it. So why do you think that being tolerant or intolerant is right and wrong? Because you just made the claim, right? I'm going to read this here. Someone cannot be tolerated if he would not tolerate. You just made a right and wrong claim right there. So why are you borrowing right and wrong from Christianity and assigning, why do you assign that viewpoint is right? because ultimately it falls apart. Like, you've gotten almost to the end of your conclusion, but the problem is the end result of the final conclusion, the end result in all of this is there is no right, there is no wrong for anyone ever, and no one has ever done a wrong thing. And I just can't believe that you could live that out in the real world. I don't believe you could function interpersonally in relationships in the real world. I think if your friend betrayed you, you would feel that that is wrong. You would not ascribe that as, it was just chemicals in his brain. No biggie. I think if you saw someone who you viewed, yeah, but I think that's a little bit of a cop-out, Lumix. I really do. This world is not a Christian world, and I can live Christianity out, and maybe you discovered the fatal flaw to nihilism. If nihilism, if your belief system can't be played out in the real world, then maybe it has no value. I mean, realistically, there's nothing that's stopping you from going out and living. Yeah, but I mean, if you're not a total nihilist, then you're not a nihilist. That's my take on it. You can't be a partial nihilist. How could you be a partial nihilist? Nothing has any value, nothing means anything except the things that do mean something. Like, I think that's inconsistent and incongruent. Well, I mean, and that's fair, and I mean, I guess my whole thought process in tonight is poke a few holes in the fact that if you have a worldview that cannot possibly be lived out within the society and the world that exists, does that worldview have any actual value beyond just being a mental exercise? Right? So I like to listen to some Vsauce videos and stuff like that. It's fun stuff. However, some of the stuff they get into has no practical implications for everyday, day-to-day living with other people in the real world. You know, like, how large is the largest number? You know, and I was listening to that. Or, you know, do chairs really exist? Like, yeah, those are fun things. They're fun mental exercises. But in the end, practically speaking, that's all they'll ever be. For 99.99% of humans on this planet, you know, yes, like a chair is a chair. And we can break it down and have all the fun intellectual thought processes and stuff like that. But no, I agree. But I think, no, I agree. There's a purpose. But I don't know if I would want to base my life on a thought experiment. I don't think I would want to base my life on evidence. And to me, the evidence says that nihilism is not being lived out in this world and cannot be lived out in this world. And a nihilistic society, to me, if you play out all the conclusions of it, that no one has ever done a wrong thing ever, and there should be no laws, and there are no morals, and there should be no ethical system, there should be no justice whatsoever. Even if I disagree with what other people might think should be moral, and other people disagree with me, obviously, right? But one thing that they and I would have in common is that we both agree that there is some semblance of morality. Now, theirs might be the exact opposite of mine. I might think that they should go to jail, and they might think that I should go to jail. But at least we each have a semblance of morality, even if they are disagreeing. But to simply say there is nothing, you know, I think it ultimately comes down to, like, it is just a mental exercise, and I wouldn't want to stake my life and my potential eternal life, right? I know that's a point of contention here, but I don't think I'd want to stake my life and my potential eternal life solely on a thought exercise or a mental experiment. I'd want to base it on as much evidence as I can do. And so that's where I just go back to, even I think it's even worth, even in the midst of your search here, just go back to the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, give them the test of historical reliability that you would give any other historical narrative document, See if they line up as being historically reliable based on the same test that you would give any other historical document. If it lives up to it, then go that direction. If it doesn't, don't. I don't think that you've contradicted yourself. I just think that you haven't come to the full, true conclusion of where nihilism would ultimately bring you. Hey, the guy in front of us is finally moving. So, no, I don't. I think the truth is comforting, but I don't think the truth is comfortable. You know, the Bible says, and I believe that the truth will set you free. I believe one day everything is going to be exposed. I think every thought, intention, action of every person one day will be exposed. I think that will be a very difficult day for a lot of people. So I think the truth is comforting, but I don't think the truth is comfortable. If that makes sense. I can try to distinguish a little bit more. Let me know if you need that. Good evening, everybody. We're trying to do some food delivery, but there are just no orders coming out here right now. So we're hanging out, having some good theological, philosophical, other ophical. There's probably other words, but my brain is. No, I think you have that mixed up. If the truth is relative, there is no truth because it's always changing. For truth to be constant, it has to be universal. Yeah, I know. Lumix is making some great points. I like it. It's very good. Very fun mental exercise. Appreciate you, Lisa. Well, right, so you made a jump from a supposition to a truth claim. Are you making the claim that there is no universal truth? Are you making that as a truth claim? Because that is a contradiction. That's like me saying this sentence is a lie. You're making a self-contradictory statement by saying there is no universal truth because you're making a truth claim. Is that claim universally true or not? Because if that claim is a universal truth, then there is a universal truth and your statement is wrong. But if there is no universal truth, then why should I believe your sentence? No, you're contradicting yourself. You can make the argument, I don't believe that the Bible is the universal truth. That's fine. That's a separate conversation. But to simply say there is no universal truth, that in and of itself is a self-contradictory statement. Okay. So maybe I'm misunderstanding. So go ahead. But I mean that's one of the most basic statements in the book. Like there are no truth. There is no universal truth. There is no absolute truth. The only way that statement can stand is if there is an absolute universal truth. So I'm just pointing that out to anybody else who's hearing this. By the way, we're going to move on from here pretty soon. We're going to go towards Cheesecake Factory. Well, so what do you mean by universal truth? I would say universal truth is a set of moral laws that supersede human laws that have existed and will from the beginning of time and will continue to exist through all eternity. That would be my take on it. If you mean by universal truth, if you're talking about individual truth claims, as in the sense of Hank Aaron was the home run king, but he's not anymore, so that's not a universal truth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a universal moral truth. that there is an absolute right, that there is an absolute wrong. And again, there's a separate debate as to where or how to discover that. Okay, that's a separate question. But I don't think I could ever come to the conclusion. Like, how can you come to the conclusion there is no absolute truth? Well, what do you mean by contradicted? Argue against it or be broken? I can argue against something that's true, but that doesn't change it. Can a belief in God be contradicted? Absolutely, but a belief is not a truth. That's just a personal system of beliefs. But either God exists or God does not exist, right? Ultimately, whether I believe in God or not doesn't change the truth of whether or not he exists. I'm not understanding your last point there, Lumix. So I can contradict different things, but just because I say that I contradict something. So for example, I'm driving a 2004 red Pontiac Vibe. You could come up to my car and say, hey, that's a nice blue Tesla Cybertruck you have. You could contradict what my observation of my car is. And that contradiction will not change what my car is. And even if you contradict it till you convince me, and you could start an entire world belief system that I drive a blue Tesla Cybertruck. You still have not changed the truth. You've just changed people's opinions. And if you get the entire world to believe that my 2004 red Pontiac Vibe is a brand new blue Tesla Cybertruck, the truth has not changed just because every single person in the world believes something different. Of course he would. Of course he did. God existed before people. God exists outside of time. God has no need. He chose to create people, but he has no need to create people. All right, we're going to move. I'm going to drive. Oh, I just said we're going to drive. Did we get a good order? Yeah, this is good enough. It's a quick little shopping order at CVS. It's $13. It's going 1 mile. It's for 5 items. Good evening, Jay. How's it going? Oh, Plain Sharks. No, we do. We're good. You're good, Plain Sharks. That's one of the things that I talk about here that most other people won't talk about. We're good, Plain Sharks. How's it going? Especially Saturday nights. We always seem to get into like some good theological and philosophical stuff on Saturday nights. I don't know what it is. I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight, Plain Sharks? No, we're good. We've been having this conversation here for like a solid hour here, Plain Sharks. So we're good. Oh, no. No, we're good. We're having a fun discussion. I guess I'm not 100% certain what you're asking, Lumix. By the way, Lumix is from Germany as well. So, doing really well, but there's probably certain things here that are being lost in translation a little bit, especially between typing and everything. So, yeah, we're all good. But thank you, Plain Sharks. I appreciate it. You mods are absolutely awesome. Keeping everything in line and doing this. So I literally said we're about to leave, and As soon as I said that, we got a $13 for 1 mile shopping order for like 5 items from CVS. So I'm gonna have to leave you all here for a second because we're like half this distance. Half of the 1 mile is driving to the CVS. So I'm just going to leave you guys in the car and try to shop this as quick as possible. It's CVS, so there's a few things. So y'all can hop in the conversation with Lumix if you want. You're all, just so everybody knows, we're good. We're going to challenge each other, sharpen each other, make each other think, but not insult each other. Okay, so as long as we do that, we're all good. And it's been a great conversation for like the last hour here. I'm pulling into the CVS parking lot here really quick. Yeah, this one is actually DoorDash. I don't do much shopping on DoorDash, but it's funny. It heard me. It's like, wait, no, don't leave. Don't leave. All right. I'm not going to leave the car running, though. But we'll throw the BRB sign up. I'm going to go shop this as quick as I possibly can. Then we'll hop back in. And if hell is a universally valid punishment, isn't wanting universal knowledge from humanity? Good question. All right. Scottish. Paul. Scottish. All right, I'm going to be right back. Mods, you can hold down the show here. I'm going to try to shop this. Let's see. It's 9:46. Let's see if I can be out here in like 7 minutes. I saw the list and it had candy on it, but didn't realize it had shampoo and French manicure nails. Definitely Alright. Let me get caught up on all the good stuff you guys were talking about here. You guys all cold in different spots. I'm just trying to read here real quick. You guys are good stuff. I'm not going to be able to like comment on all this stuff, but good stuff. Good conversations. Lisa, thanks for sharing some of your heart there too. Appreciate it. All right, now we're going to a hotel. All these late night CVS runs are almost always. Feels like they're almost always hotel runs. Right, but if you, my only counter to that, Lumix, would be if you're a naturalist, then you believe that all the physical laws run your life. So it's really no different. You can't get away from the fact that ultimately something is defining your life. Whether it be man-made rules or God-given rules or natural law. Any one of those. It could be, you name it, but any one of those, but no matter which you choose, it's still ultimately defined as there is something out of your control that guides your life, or your neurons and your chemicals in your brain. That's what's controlling your life. So anyway, it's a lot of stuff. I just look at how humanity works. Like, one of the biggest reasons that I settled on Christianity is it perfectly explains everything I see in humanity. Would you consider the natural laws, physical laws, a condemnation? Or it's just merely a restriction? It's just a limitation. Do you feel condemned by gravity? Do you feel condemned by Newton's, first law? Those things don't condemn you. They're just definitions of the world that you live in. All right, we're almost to this hotel. This was like a really quick drop off. Even though I was shopping for French manicured, French press nails. I don't know what they are. I thought a French press was a coffee thing. They're like French manicure press-on nails or something like that. I don't know what this is. And shampoo. Come on! Really making the bald guy shop for someone else's shampoo. We don't like shopping orders DoorDash, but we do them because we have to. Alright, let me go figure out where I'm supposed to bring all this stuff. Well, they want me to bring it all the way. I don't know if I can do that or not in this place. We're gonna... Alright. BRB. I'm getting a workout tonight. We're gonna throw the BRB sign back up. I don't know if I'm allowed to go to this person's room or not in this hotel. So we'll find out. I'll be back quickly. I hope. We're back and better than ever. Alright. I don't know where to go. It's pretty slow. Should we go back to Magic Dumpster one more time? Technically, that's where we got our last order. It's not as cool tonight. I'm starting to get sweaty. I did just have to run some steps too, but it was really cool last night out at the baseball game. Or perhaps, Lumix, egocentrism is man's rebellion against God wanting to be number one, and humanity therefore placing himself on the throne instead of God. And someone who is atheistic would see no problem with egocentrism. We should look out for ourselves first, not worry about family, not worry about anything other than what's going to help our ultimate survival. Only if free will. So rebellion would not exist only if God did not allow free will to exist. So if God created a bunch of robots... Hello again, Kaylee. Welcome back. We just did a quick little drop off some French press manicure nails and some sort of shampoo thing. Fancy pants stuff. Right, so free will and rebellion, or in the very least the opportunity to rebel, have to go hand in hand. And love also, right? If love is forced, it's not love. Well, what do you mean by if God negotiates with us? What do you mean by that? I guess that depends on what you mean by that, because my natural inclination is to say God doesn't negotiate with us. So let me understand the premise of what do you mean by saying that God negotiates with us. We're parked back here by Magic Dumpster. It's busy. Let me go show you everybody Magic Dumpster. Oop, that's me. Wait a second. Hold on, I'm not Magic Dumpster. There's Magic Dumpster. Alright. Magic Dumpster. Do. Yeah. I can throw that up really quick. There we go. There's some Magic Dumpsters. All right, so we are downtown. Actually, it's kind of interesting because what you're saying is giving what you want. That is more of a biblical trait of the devil. In fact, that's how the devil tempts Jesus, is he offers him things that most every human or most any human would have caved into. Like, worship me and I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. I don't think that offer is just given to Jesus. I think that offer has been given to a variety of people over the ages, and some have accepted that. So you're not a parent, I'm assuming, but you will know that if you are a parent and you give everything that your kids want, if you give your kids everything they want, sorry, I really botched that sentence. If you give your kids everything that they want, they would not be well functioning adults. So God provides what people need, not what they want. Yeah, but Lumix, where's that? I don't know where that philosophy is coming from. That's not a biblical idea. I guess, again, I'm not sure where your premise is of God making offers or God negotiating. He's simply saying, look, I want to be your heavenly Father. I want you to follow me. I'm going to give you every reason to follow me, but I'm not going to make you do it. No, he always leads. Read Psalm 23, Lumix. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for God is with me. His rod and his staff, he comforts me. In addition, we're given multiple things that contradict exactly what you said in the Bible, right? Which is fix your eyes on Jesus, right? Narrow is the way that leads to salvation. He states that his way is the best way. He states that if you rebel against him, that he will give you the ultimate desire of your heart to be separated from him for eternity. Well, no, obviously God does not make us do his will, because if he did, this world would look significantly different than what it does. Even people who follow after Jesus would tell you that there is no way. Of course, he's the judge. That's what judges do. He's not only a judge, but he is a judge. So yeah, that is part of his characteristics. By the way, I'm just rejecting some lowball offers here and stuff. Somebody's honking at somebody. Who knows? It's crazy in the back alley tonight. But so Kaylee, that question assumes that God's morality would change. So I would answer that just simply as that is not something that the God of the Bible could do. He could never prescribe something. He could never prescribe something that was evil to then become good. Now, there are certainly some difficult passages in the Bible where there are certain things that, without knowing the full context, they can be like, wow, that seems a little bit contradictory. And there are hard passages that need to be really studied, and understanding the context and understanding the fullness of what was going on in those situations. But yeah, no, for sure. In the Abraham and Isaac situation, that is a very interesting thing. But there's multiple pieces there, so we can dig into that, Kaylee. It's a good situation. It's a tough one. It's definitely it's definitely a difficult situation. But let me say a couple things on it. So, one, obviously, if it was something that you were writing into a religious book to get people to follow you, that would be a really weird story to make up, right? I think we can all agree on that. And I'm specifically talking in the life of Abraham. And Kaylee, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming you're talking about the same thing, where God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son, Isaac. Lumix, I don't know if you realize it or not, but you're actually stating what the biblical truth is. That he is the answer. Yes, he is the way. That is a biblical truth that you are stating. So at least you're understanding that part of it. So if we're talking about Abraham being called to sacrifice his son Isaac, so one part I would say is that would be a really messed up story to put in if it was a man-made document trying to convince people to become followers of your religion, right? So that part of it is, like, to me, that's one of the greatest evidences that it actually really did happen. Because why else would you include that in a book unless it truly happened and you truly wanted people to know about it and see that it happens? So that's all right. Lumix, you can keep typing. I'm gonna work with Kaylee's questions here for a few minutes. So, because they're good ones too. So that's part of it. The other part is, you have to remember that the full law had not been revealed yet. Okay, God's law, God's commandments had not been revealed to the way that we think of them, right? 10 commandments comes after this. Now, obviously, Abraham would have had knowledge of Cain killing Abel, but he also would have had knowledge that Cain killed Abel out of jealousy, not out of a command from God. So he would have known that. Now, how much of this? Well, you have to remember, if you go with the biblical timeline, there was a lot of people were living a lot longer back in that time. So the stories were passed down through generations, but generations would have been lasted a lot longer than that. So Abraham would have known some of the basics, but he didn't have, it's not like Abraham didn't have the 10 commandments. It'd be an interesting study. I've never done this study, but I think I want to do it sometime. It'd be an interesting study to see what laws did Abraham have written, and I don't think there were that many. Yeah, so you got good stuff, Kaylee. So let me take it one at a time. So in Abraham's particular situation, it was a test of obedience. It was a test to see, is Abraham going to listen to what I tell him to do? Right? And you have to realize that Abraham would have had a limited knowledge of what actual morality was, in the sense it would only have been morality as had been revealed by God. And we don't know what level of morality had been revealed, but obviously Abraham did not think it immoral to do that. So it was a test, and some people are not going to like the fact that God tests people. So I talked about this earlier with Lumix. God's foreknowledge doesn't mean determinism. So it's not like God has a note in his pocket saying, Kaylee is going to have Frosted Flakes for breakfast tomorrow morning, therefore you are compelled to eat Frosted Flakes tomorrow morning. It's much more like and God knows at that point in the movie, he knows what you're going to do, because he's outside of the movie, because he's the director of the movie. But he doesn't force you to eat Frosted Flakes. He just knows that you're going to do it. And I use the example of that. Oh, God does. I believe God tests people all the time, Kaylee. I think most of the time we're too busy and our lives are too noisy to hear him in terms of what he's trying to communicate with us. But I mean, I can tell you multiple times I've asked God to help me with certain, like, help me to be patient. And then he gives me a test of, will I actually be patient in this situation, right? Like, just say, God, help me to be patient, then go driving on the roads, and he'll give you that opportunity to do that. When teachers test you, does that make them bad because they give you a test? No. A test is just it's a checkpoint. It's a checkpoint to see where you are. Well, there's more than that, Lumix. I'm just saying in the framework. There's more than 10 commandments, but then in the end, Jesus boils it down to 2 commandments actually in the New Testament. He just summarizes all the commandments of the Old Testament into 2. You think teachers are arrogant, Lumix? Or are teachers just doing their job? Isn't testing part of teaching? I think that's just a different worldview. I don't see teachers as arrogant, just testing people, but I'm also past the age of having direct teachers. All right. So on the flood narrative with Noah, if you read some other extra biblical texts, such as the book of Enoch, there's some other extra biblical texts too that essentially state that the world was in utter chaos, and potentially, if you're familiar with like the Chronicles of Narnia, well, to strengthen, right? We think of trauma as trauma, but I mean, we've probably all been through negative things in our life that have helped us grow stronger. Why does a caterpillar have to go through the trauma of building a cocoon and then breaking out? Because it helps them grow into what they're meant to be. So I think that's just a philosophical. Do you think trauma is bad, or do you think trauma can be used for good? The trauma itself may be bad, but I think ultimately, according to the Bible, God works all things together for good for those who are called according to his purposes. So I think that's the bigger thing is that worse, or would it be worse to say there is no God and you experience trauma for no purpose at all? You experience every negative and every hardship you face in your life has no purpose. God says that every negative experience that you've faced in your life can be ultimately used for the good of helping other people. And that can be difficult. It can be a difficult thing to wrestle through. I mean, I wrestle through that sometimes myself personally, but I think it's a whole lot better worldview to think that the negative things that have happened to you in your life can ultimately be used to help other people, as opposed to be just wasted and just part of your miserable existence as a human being. Like, I just think that's a whole lot more. So anyway, on Noah and the flood, here's the question that you have to get down to, which is it still comes down to a morality question, which is there's a couple parts here. One is some people are resistant to the idea or the concept that that's another CVS, $7 for 5 miles. We're not doing that one. Some people are resistant to this idea of people ever dying for any grievance that they have ever committed. The other part of it is also true, that the vast majority of people, even people who would say that, have probably uttered at least one time or another in their life, oh, I could totally kill that person right now. Right? And so essentially, though, if you kind of do a little study, and I've been doing a lot of studying this recently with Noah and the flood, there was, if you believe, and again, these aren't all in the Bible, so these are from extra biblical sources, but essentially says there were all sorts of tyrannical things. There were giants, there were hybrid animal human creations, like essentially what you see in Greek mythology, what you see in Narnia. That's what the world was like. And there were giants feeding on people. I mean, again, you might think that's fanciful, and I totally get that, but essentially the connotation is that Noah and his family were not only the only righteous ones, the connotation is that they were really the only pure blood, truly fully human beings left. That was it. That basically Noah's line was kind of the last of the truly fully humans. And I know that's kind of crazy. I'm not going to go too deep into that because that's more goods into the conspiratorial side of some things, which I'm not going to dig into too far tonight. Yep, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Yep, Shem, from which we get Semite, right? The Jewish line, the Hebrew line comes through Shem. So when you hear someone saying anti-Semitism or anti-Shemitism, that comes from the line of Shem. So, interesting little tidbit, right? So you whether you know it or not, if you call someone an anti-Semite, you're actually using biblical language. It goes back to Shem, and that goes back to the lineage of Shem, the son of Noah, from the ark. Still a phrase used today. So again, and I'm not saying not every Christian believes or buys into all that, but essentially it was the inclination of people on the earth was only evil all the time. That was basically what it was. Everybody was out for themselves and just themselves at all the time. Murder, thievery, everything. It was just rampant evil everywhere. So, and it's not just then. There were multiple times where there was evil rampant in different kingdoms that God would choose to wipe them out. And there have been times he's done that from one nation attacking another nation. Sometimes he did it through what we literally still call today acts of God, right? Like Sodom and Gomorrah. He saw that was only evil all the time, essentially. Destroyed that city. But then there are also times that nations. So even the Jewish nation was taken into captivity, taken into Babylon. And so there have been times of judgment on people for their sin. There will be an ultimate judgment, but that's essentially how that has worked out. So okay, and then going back, why would you test you by sacrifice? So, well, remember, ultimately, it was a test of obedience. There was not a full law, and Hebrews, the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, actually tells us a little bit of what Abraham was thinking. And so it's interesting because Abraham's reasoning was, I'm going to obey God because I know that his promise, he didn't understand how it was going to work. But you got to remember, first of all, Abraham had Isaac at a very old age. He was well past fathering years when he had Isaac as his son. So he had already seen God do a miracle. So that's the first part. He had already seen God work a miracle. So he already knew God could work miracles. And so he literally goes and says in the book of Hebrews that Abraham reasoned that God would just raise Isaac from the dead. That was his reasoning. I'm going to be obedient to God because I've already seen him do a miracle. I know he can do miracles. I know that he has already promised me that my offspring will come through Isaac. And so if this is what God wants me to do, I know that God can raise him from the dead. It literally tells us that in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11. And so there's a faith-based element in this that we don't necessarily grasp because we have a bigger picture of things, and we know things like you shall not murder. We know that that's a wrong thing. At least the vast majority of people know and understand that. But we don't necessarily know that Abraham knew that within the context of what he knew. And again, that's just based off of, we don't know how much of God's law had been revealed to Abraham before he went through this process. Like I said, he would have known that Cain killing Abel was wrong, but he also knew that Cain killed Abel out of jealousy. Well, that Lumix, that's an atheistic argument. If it's all matter and energy, then yeah, that's what it is. But I see way too many people who act way beyond what just matter and energy and what simple survival of the fittest would dictate them, or how it would dictate them to act. So again, you're asking questions, some of which are built on the presupposition of your worldview. So I just don't believe that. I don't believe that humans live solely off of instinct. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we react instinctually. Like we put our hand on the stove and we don't realize it's hot. That's an instinct. But I think there's plenty of times that humans have an instinct to do something. Like, you know, you're walking through the line and you say, hey, it'd be really easy to sneak a candy bar in my pocket. And your instinct says, yeah, I should do it. But there's some sort of conscience or moral law that's written on your heart that tells you that even though I could do it, even though I know I could get away with it, I'm going to choose not to do it. So I need to get some water. My voice is starting to wear out. So am I. I'm starting to wear out here too. There's not many orders left. It's 10:30. We got our one good order from Magic Dumpster. I think it is time to just start driving in the direction of home. We might still get another order as we go, but I'm just not feeling like there's much else here. Appreciate everybody hanging out, and Lumix especially. Good conversation. Kaylee, good conversation. If I've missed some questions, sorry about that. So yeah, no, and I'm not here to tell you that it's easy to just square everything you read in the Bible and you should just believe it and not question it, because that's definitely not the case. I think there's plenty of things that are difficult to wrestle with in the Bible, but I think the fact that they are written in the Bible, yeah, there's just, we did the one CVS and that's it. So we're gonna just start heading towards home. I was only gonna go till 10 o'clock anyway, so we've already gone later than I had planned. We'll start heading towards home, and we'll keep talking along the way. I was hoping to get to 50 tonight. I think we're at like 40, so I think we're at 42. I think I did a 9, a 10, a 13, and a 10. But like I said, we didn't even get out. We didn't turn on the apps till like 7:45, so we kind of missed the main supper rush tonight. Well, I think, Lumix, I think that people believing in free will and people not believing in free will could at least come to an agreement on the conclusions of the implications of both worldview. Right? Without free will, you can't have love. If you want people to always act perfectly, you would have to restrict their free will. Well, to be consistent with a biblical worldview, that would be a sin. Right? Because you're putting yourself over God. God has called you to live. He's called you to life. Literally says, choose life that you may live. So yeah, so ultimately, but that's what sin is. Sin is when man takes the place of God and puts God and thrones him on that. Yeah. Whether it's murder of someone else or murder of self, suicide, whatever, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter in the context. Right. Like that's exactly it. And then that gets the morality gets to the broader question of, so if murder isn't legal anywhere, why is that? Because that's not an animal kingdom rule. That's not an atheistic rule. That's a very theistic rule. You know, now there might be certain countries where there are leaders who practice violent things like that, which are obviously not good. That's not what we want. But nowhere is that looked up upon. It's looked down upon. So, but no, I mean, I think where the free will and the not free will people could come to at least agreement would be, if there's no free will, there's no love, because love can't be forced, right? I feel like that's a conclusion that both sides can come from. So is love chemicals in your head, or is love a decision? And I can tell you that there are plenty of days that I don't feel love, but I choose to love anyway. I don't feel loving. I don't feel like being loving, but I still choose to love. And to me, that is evidence that love is a decision and not just chemicals in my head. No, believing in something that someone gives you doesn't put you in their role. It actually puts you in your right place. Now, if I believe that I give myself free will, that's playing God. But believing that God gave me free will, that's humbling myself, right? It's a lot easier to be deterministic and say, look, I don't have free will. Sorry, officer, I was speeding because the chemicals in my brain told me I had to speed. You know, sorry, judge, I killed that person simply because the chemicals in my brain told me I had to do it. That doesn't make any sense. It seems like a really lousy way to live life. But it also sounds like a really easy, lazy way to live life, right? Why didn't you go to school today? Chemicals in my brain said I didn't have to. Why were you mean to her? Chemicals in my brain. Chemicals in my brain. They chose it for me. We don't act like this in real life, which is, again, that shows to me the fatal flaw of atheism and nihilism. Nobody lives it out. Kaylee. That's a good question. Because a lot of people, humans are really good at taking power structures and benefiting off of them. Right? So, one of the things humans are really good at, right, are getting into power, exploiting their power for personal gain. Like, you can pick the number, 99% of politicians, right? Bosses, managers at work, to get into power, to exploit their position. People find ways to work their way up into church leadership. This is Cheesecake Factory, $16 for 10 miles. Where's that drop off? All right, we'll do it. It'll put us over 50. I don't really want to do it, but we'll do it. We're still talking. So, well, the question, Kaylee, the argument about your chemicals in your brain doing it, some people will argue that everything that you do is just merely matter and energy. Oh, I guess we're not going to do it. It wouldn't let me accept it. I tried. So some people will make the argument that everything is matter and energy and chemicals in your brain, and it's deterministic. Like, you literally have no choice. Every single action you do is determined solely by the evolutionary processes that got to you. So other people might mean other things by that, but in the context I've been talking with Lumix, that's what we're talking about. This idea that everything that you have is just, everything you do is completely predetermined. who you quote unquote love, who you hate, none of it's necessarily your choice at all. It's just you were forced to do it. When you choose to speed, you're forced to do it. If you choose to be nice to someone, you were forced to do it. But if somebody kills someone, they were also forced to do it. Therefore, they don't deserve, they don't deserve any punishment for it. That's like the ultimate nihilism. If somebody wants to kidnap somebody, whatever. The chemicals in their brain made them do it. It's not wrong. Some dictator killing 100 million people, that's not really wrong. That's literally that's the nihilism conclusion. Well, right, that's exactly it, right? But that's not someone that you would say, well, yeah, let's have everybody living that way. Could you imagine if everyone lived with essentially an insanity morality, Kaylee? Like that's what we would get to, right? That's when you hear of people who do those things, what do we tend to call them, right? I'm not saying we should, but people tend to call them animals. He's an animal. He's a monster. Why? Because he's only beholden to following his desires with zero thoughts about how it impacts anyone but himself or herself or whatever. Opinions on the death penalty. I struggle with this one. I'll be honest. I've gone back and forth so many times in my life. Okay, so let me tell you how I feel. In a world of perfect justice, I don't have an issue with it. The problem is the part that I struggle with is false convictions. Because as tragic as it is, if someone spends 10 years in prison and then is acquitted years later, at least they still are alive. I think I'm for it, but I think the standard for it should have to be like no doubt. And I don't know what that looks like in the court of law because I'm not a law expert. So I'm gonna that's the part that I personally struggle with. It's not about I believe the state should have the ability to administer the death penalty. I'm not opposed to it as a penalty. I just think that it needs to be something along the lines of we have no doubt that the person is guilty of the crimes for which they've been convicted. And I don't know how that I couldn't even begin to explain how that would work. I think in the very least, the threat of the death penalty, I think society is better when there is a threat of a death penalty. But I think it should be reserved for the worst of the worst. That's just kind of my gut on that. I see some good questions and stuff coming through. How's it going, Butter? So, we're going to work our way home. Maybe I'll go hang out at Miller's Ale House for a few minutes. It's a slow night, but it's a late night for us, so appreciate everybody being here. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe. I think we can hit one of our goals tonight here. Let's see if we got it or not. Yeah, we did. We hit one of our goals. We added five new subs to the channel tonight. Got us over to 1,760 subscribers. So thank you for that. If you want to help us chip away at 3 other goals, it's just 2 other goals. We're looking for 5 new channel members and 5 super chats of $5 or more. So 5 subs, 5 channel members, 5 super chats of 5 or more. 5, 5, 5, 5. I think we're going to roll with that for some of these live streams. And all right, and that's Kaylee. I know a lot of people hold that view. I just think that to deter the worst of crimes, you need to have the ultimate threat at least available. I'm not a believer that prison is solely for rehabilitation. I think there needs to be a form of punishment that goes with things. It's not just about helping bad people get better. I think people do need to be punished for crimes. And I believe that a strong justice system will deter crime. I really do believe that. It's not going to prevent crime. You can never prevent crime. Because again, humanity, free will, all those things that we were talking about. But I do believe that having a strong punitive system is a way to deter certain types of crime. So, and I'm not advocating for this position, but in countries, okay, I'm not advocating for this position, but I'm just giving an example. In countries where they chop off your hands when you steal items, I would imagine that the theft rate is significantly lower than in countries where they do not. Why? Because people will make a risk assessment and determine that as a whole, I would rather have my hands than this item that I'd be willing to steal. Now, I do not endorse that viewpoint, okay? But what I'm saying is, it proves the point that strong punishments can deter crime, even when people are predisposed, I think that's the word, predisposed towards crime. And that's why I think for the most heinous acts, I think that just having the threat and knowing that the death penalty is a possibility, I believe can be a deterrent. Now, I'd have to do the research to see if the stats back that up, but that's what my gut says just as a person. So, can rehabilitation not also be punishment? Well, it can, but I don't think it should be the only. I don't think that should be the only thing. Like I believe in second chances a lot more, I think, than most people do. So I am a big fan. So I don't know all the laws of Gilead, Kaylee. I don't want to comment on something. And again, I'm not advocating for this idea that we should cut off people's hands if they steal things. I'm just simply making the observation that harsher penalties will tend to deter crimes. I don't think that's the only thing. I think there's a variety of things that we can do to help deter crime. But let me do this. I'm going to go park over at Miller's Ale House. I know I'm missing a couple of chat messages here. So, but no, I think there is or can be opportunities for both rehabilitation and punishment. But I also think there are certain people. Oh, The Handmaid's Tale. I only know bits. Yeah, I've never watched The Handmaid's Tale. I know some memes. I've seen memes of it. So I'm gonna venture to say that probably no, I wouldn't agree with everything that is in it. Let me ask you though, do you believe that known terrorists, known murderers you feel like life in prison or is like the harshest penalty? Like, what's the harshest penalty that you believe the state should be able to administer, Kaylee? Yeah, I guess the question is can everyone's will be changed, Lumix? And I think that's hard because a lot of guys in prison, and girls too, but especially guys, learn to be con men. And they can be really good at faking something for years even. And just because someone looks rehabbed in prison doesn't mean they're not going to go back to the old circles of friends that got them in trouble in the first place. So, all right, I'm going to see if ChatGPT can help us out here really quick. Can you give me an overview of the laws of the town of Gilead as seen in The Handmaid's Tale? I am not particularly familiar with Gilead, but I'm having a discussion and would like to know some of the more well-known laws and punishments within Gilead. All right, we're going to let ChatGPT do some work for us here. I'm going to let it generate while we get to Miller's Ale House. I'm going to learn, Kaylee. By the way, this is one of the things I love using ChatGPT for. I use it more like a search engine. Now, obviously, I take everything with a grain of salt. I'm not going to do like in-depth research, but something like this. It's a really good way to get a quick summary of something. And I'll be honest, just in general, I don't have a whole bunch of political positions on a bunch of political issues. In a lot of ways, I lean libertarian on a lot of my political views. I'm like halfway between a conservative and a libertarian, whatever that makes me. All right. This is according to ChatGPT, so if I'm wrong, you can correct me. I'm just going off of what they said here. Laws and restrictions in Gilead. Women cannot read or write. Women are forbidden from literacy as knowledge is seen as dangerous. Even shop signs are replaced with symbols, so handmaids do not have to read. All right, so obviously I do not agree with that. In fact, I feel like kind of our modern education system is kind of bringing us that direction. Like some of the current reading levels, it's crazy. Like I'm blown away by like the ability of some kids to read and write. I'm like, I could read and write way better at that age than they can. Women cannot own property or have money. Okay, so I don't agree with that. Handmaids must bear children for elite families. I disagree with that. Strict dress code for women. Disagree with that. Public executions for dissenters. Okay, social status. Got it. Criminals and political dissidents are executed and displayed on the wall in public as a warning. All right, now, so that maybe is a little bit of what we were talking about here. That's an interesting part, right? So that's kind of the Roman culture here, too, where part of like crucifixion in Roman culture was to humiliate and to kind of be a sign to do it. Now, obviously, if you're trying to control certain things, that's good. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's good, but that's a good way to do it. I'm not approving of it. I'm saying that would be a successful deterrent. The secret police can arrest anyone without trial. Don't like that. No unapproved relationships. No abortion or birth control. Okay, so I don't want to dig too deep into it, but I just believe in the sanctity of all human life, and I believe life begins at conception. So part of that I would actually agree with it. Part of it I would disagree with. This sounds like, just reading this sounds like what I think a lot of liberals think a lot of conservatives think. That's what, just in reading this. This is not what a lot of conservatives think, but it sounds like what a lot of liberals think conservatives think. if I was just kind of reading this as someone who's a little more centrist than probably both sides. The ceremony, state-sanctioned rape of handmaids, obviously, don't agree with that. Handmaids cannot make eye contact or speak friendly. No freedom of movement. Don't agree with that. Don't agree with that. Women are sent to the colonies. Don't agree with that. Punishments for breaking laws. Well, right. Yeah, it is. It is Deep Talk Tonight, Cat. Sorry I missed you earlier. You hopped on right at the end of the other stream. So, hey, Lumix, I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. Sorry if I didn't get to everything. Hey, Lumix, I'm gonna say the same thing I said at the beginning. Get yourself a Bible, read through the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as historical narrative, not as a religious document, as a historical narrative, and see if it matches your test for historical reliability that you would put any other historical document up against, and see if the claims of Jesus stand up to that historical reliability test. But I appreciate your conversation. I appreciate you thinking. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Come on. I won't always have time to talk like this. Like when I'm doing these ride-alongs, this is a great time to do it. Won't always have time to do this because we got other content that we do on this. But yeah, do it. Always. Also, you can feel free to email me too if you want to talk more. Asideofhustlechannel@gmail.com. And I know I got a couple emails I got to get responded to, so didn't do that. So yeah, no, I mean, but here's the thing. Some of what I'm reading in Handmaid's Tale, I think, is actually opposite of how the world really works. You know, a lot of I got to be careful about what I say in terms of YouTube and not getting in trouble, but a lot of the trafficking that goes on of women ties in to the abortion culture. So I think I need to probably stop there as to not get in trouble from YouTube. But trafficking of women and human trafficking ties a lot in with the abortion culture. And I think a lot of people who haven't really studied too much don't realize how hand in hand they go. And so I'm going to leave it at that, but I would encourage everybody to do some research on the prevalence of the abortion culture within human trafficking and how it's essentially a necessary part to make it work. And I think one thing both left and right, conservative, centrist, liberal can all agree on is we definitely want no human trafficking, right? I think we can all agree on that. And so that's something I think we all need to be working towards. I think it's something we all need to have our eyes open to. I mean, it happens in real life around us all the time. I mean, you know, if you look at Epstein, there were times that Epstein was in my very town. There are reports of times that he was in my town doing some of what he was doing. And it's not good. It means it was happening around thousands of people and nobody noticed. And I think that's one thing that we all need to be on the lookout for. And I think that's something that we can all agree on. Wherever you are on the political spectrum, human trafficking is wrong. Slavery is wrong. And, you know, different people are going to have different ideas of how to fix those things. And those are debates for other times. But, you know, I would just start with always keep your eyes open. Always be aware. Be watching for someone who just has a look like they're in distress. And you might not always be able to do anything. I mean, I can tell you, I've had a couple times with food deliveries that I've looked people in the eyes and just said, "Are you okay?" You know, and I wish I had a better way or a better knowledge, and I keep trying to grow in doing that. But I mean, there have been certain times that I've delivered, and it's mostly been to women that I've looked them in the eye, like, are you okay? You know, trying to catch any sort of read off of them, because it felt like there was something. And you know, that from there I would get, you know, there was one time, I can tell you, there was one time there was like a lady, and did the delivery to her door, and she didn't have crutches and she couldn't walk, and so she literally like dragged herself to the door. And so I ended up like I let other people in her community know, like, I don't know what to do about this, you know, but I let other people know, because I'm like, she can't get to the door. Like, she needs some help. And so we need to be watchful. Like, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who have been in distress that I've missed over the years, and probably, you know, and so this isn't a shaming thing, it's just a reality. Like, it's just the reality of the situation. We sometimes miss it, but as the more we grow, the more we can be observant of these things and be on the lookout for when people are struggling and need our help. So, all right, well, it's 11 o'clock. We're just not seeing orders, guys. So, all right, I'm gonna head towards home. I'll still leave everything on. Yeah, did you the same? Yeah, it's a tough world for some people, and some people get caught up in some stuff. And I think I'm going to start talking out about some more things soon, but we'll see. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to say a few things, because there's certain things I think need to be said, but they also need to be said in the right way. And by right way, I mean I need to carefully choose my words that I'm communicating when I'm trying to communicate with some stuff. But I think tonight was like kind of a good opening into that. Like, in the very least, let's work to get human trafficking to zero. You know, any little way that we can, and sharing knowledge and helping people out. And especially like us gig delivery drivers, I mean, we're out there, we're interacting with people all the time. And, you know, it's not like you're always going to notice something. You know, there's just recently, just this week, I saw there was like a bunch of kids who had been like locked up in their house, and the only food that was getting delivered was like DoorDash type of food. You know, and I'm not blaming any driver, because, you know, when you drop off food at the door, you drop it off at the door. You just follow the instructions. But, you know, they were getting all their food through DoorDash. The mom wasn't there. The kids were living there by themselves. It was a really sad story. And, yeah, there's always the chance that you could be dropping food off or dropping groceries off for someone who's having a difficult time, right? Because that person, especially if they're being held captive in some sort of way, obviously they're not going to be allowed to go to the store, go to the restaurant. So I don't know how likely it is, but there is a higher chance than the average person that you will be interacting with someone who's in a potentially dangerous or actually dangerous situation. Hopefully you guys are getting the heart of what I'm saying. I'm tired. I'm trying to be really careful not to say anything that's insensitive, but yeah, for sure it is. And you know, we can be aware. We can spread knowledge. We can share things. Be alert anytime I come across videos about stuff like that. Yeah. For sure. And like, it may never actually happen, but at least just have your mind prepared for action. I can think of a story this is more than a couple years ago. Probably like 5 or 6 years ago now. We were on vacation, and we were over by like Disney at some sort of resort pool. You know, it's a really fun place. I'm sitting by the pool, My kids are pretty young. We're talking maybe like 2, 4, and 6. So I'm like watching them swim or whatever. And I look over and I saw a girl struggling. Like she was struggling to keep her head above water, and I watched and I looked, looked around, didn't see any parents. Looked around, there just weren't any other parents by the pool. And I just made the decision to jump in. It was just one of those, no lifeguard on duty. I made the decision to jump in. Because, I was pretty familiar with like what that age should look like for swimming. I'm not a lifeguard, but I've seen my own kids were that age and I'd seen kids swimming and stuff. So I jumped in. Jumped in. It wasn't like that deep. It was, I could walk. But I jumped in, grabbed her and pulled her to the side, and then her mom came over and she's like, "Oh, she was gonna be fine." I'm like, I don't know. And then a couple minutes later, another dad, not that kid's dad, just another dad came over and said, "I saw her and I think you made the right call. I think you made the right call." And I still remember that. Like, I don't know. I'm not a lifeguard. I just saw something that didn't look right and I acted. And maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, right? But in that situation, I'd rather be wrong than I'd rather jump in and be wrong than not jump in and be wrong. So I think that's the big thing, is just have concern for your fellow people. Yeah, like you said, it's not fun, but it is there and it's out there, and the more people who are watching for it. Sorry, I'll turn the lights really bright. Turn the light on here. But the more people who are watching for it, the harder it is for evil to hide. We expose it and do that. So I don't know. Like sometime you might see something and you're not sure, but if you're really not sure, and after a little interaction you're still not sure, make the call. Make the call, because it'd be better that you make the call and nothing comes of it than you don't make the call and then you find out that you could have stopped it and you didn't. So that's just kind of my take on it. Love your fellow humans. Find the right opportunities to hop in and do that. So, well, I appreciate all you guys. Sorry there wasn't more good deliveries, but we had good discussion, and sometimes good discussion is worth it. Even if we don't make a lot of money, we had just some good talks. I know a couple of our Lumix and I forget the other guy now. I'm tired. They both went to bed because they were in Germany. It's time for me to go to bed in the United States. So appreciate everybody. I'm planning on being live during the 5 to 9 time tomorrow. That's the goal. Be live from 5 to 9, and hopefully I will see you then. Appreciate all you. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.